Well, Ontario's top court has made a decision on that appeal by Canadian musician and former Hedley frontman Jacob Hoggard. Hoggard was appealing his 2022 sexual assault conviction, and he's been out on bail ever since. CBC's Megan Fitzpatrick is in the studio now. You've been on top of this story. What did the court have to say?
The court has dismissed the appeal, so that means the conviction is upheld. Jacob Hoggard's defense lawyers had asked for a new trial. He's not going to get it. So the arguments that had been made at the appeal hearing back in June were dismissed by the Ontario Court of Appeal. It was a unanimous decision by the three-panel judge. Hoggard's defense lawyers had argued that the trial judge had made multiple errors during the trial, which was back in 2022. Now, it was a jury trial, but there was a judge overseeing the proceedings. One of the key things they had argued on appeal was that an expert who had testified at the trial, a clinical psychologist, she testified about the effects of trauma on someone. And the defense lawyers had argued that her testimony, her evidence, was not relevant and never should have been allowed to be admitted at the trial. They had also taken issue with the instructions to the jury from the judge at the conclusion of the arguments. And the defense lawyers had argued that the judge, that the final charge had been unfair to Hoggard in how she had delivered those instructions. And a couple of other things they took issue with, Natasha. And so they had raised these issues at the appeal hearing. But today, the Ontario Court of Appeal actually agreeing with the defense lawyers, saying that that expert testimony shouldn't have been allowed, shouldn't have been admitted. But, and there's a but, the appeal court saying that the trial judge corrected any misuse of that evidence that was given by that expert. And I'll quote here, saying, in light of all the circumstances, there was no substantial wrong or miscarriage of justice. That is the main conclusion from the Ontario Court of Appeal. Writing for the court, Justice Bonotto saying, I do not agree that the trial judge erred with respect to the other grounds that were raised, those other arguments. So the decision lays out the reasons for this conclusion, but that is the overall decision from the Ontario Court of Appeal, that there was no miscarriage of justice. Right. That is what the defense lawyers had argued. And so again, the appeal has been dismissed, which means that conviction is upheld.
Okay, so the system is working, clearly. It went through the appeal process. They're saying that the judge did the right thing, no major harm. No mistakes have been made. So what does this mean now? Because Hoggard, as we reported, has been out on bail.
And I should correct what I just said, because the Ontario Court of Appeal did agree that that expert testimony shouldn't have been admitted, because essentially they're saying it wasn't necessary. The evidence that that expert gave wasn't needed for the trial. The point of giving that testimony could have been addressed with the jury instructions. But those other arguments raised by the defense lawyers were rejected by the Ontario Court of Appeal. So what happens next? Well, we're gathering reaction to this decision, and we do have some from Jacob Hoggard's defense lawyer. So I'll read that here. We've got it on a board to show you exactly what it says. They write, we are disappointed in today's decision from the Court of Appeal for Ontario denying our client Jacob Hoggard's appeal. While we maintain that Mr. Hoggard's trial was unfair, we respect the court's decision. We are carefully reviewing the judgment to consider our next steps. Those next steps could include appealing to the Supreme Court of Canada. That is an option that will be open to Hoggard, so we'll watch for any updates on that. He has been on bail since his sentencing hearing, which was a few months after he was found guilty. So again, that was back in 2022. This has been a very long process. He was first arrested and charged in 2018. Then the trial wasn't until 2022, delays because of the pandemic. The trial lasted several weeks. It also took several days for the jury to reach their verdicts. He initially faced 3 charges related to 2 women, 2 complainants. So he was found guilty of 1 charge of sexual assault. That is the verdict that he is appealing. He was found not guilty on another charge of sexual assault related to a 16-year-old girl and a charge of sexual interference. So he was found not guilty of those charges, guilty of the 1 charge. So it has been a lengthy legal process. It may not be over if they decide to take this all the way up to the Supreme Court. So we'll watch for developments on that.
I know you'll be on top of it. Thanks so much, Megan.
You're welcome.